Okay, welcome to the 2022 post-draft write-up, which this year will be in a recording form. I've never really done this before, so we're just going to see how it goes. I really haven't looked in too much detail at everyone's teams, so you're going to be getting my kind of immediate takeaways here on this recording. So. We'll go by division. I'll just start at the top and go down. We'll start with Bucky LaGrange. Okay. Okay. Travis Darno, Brandon Belt, Muncy Machado, Polanco. Okay. And Tatis in the second round. Okay. So let's look at what Dave is doing here. As far as the hitters are concerned, I think that he is just facing a substantial amount of injury risk here. Brandon Belt, Muncy, both guys frequently injured. Byron Buxton, obviously frequently injured. Pollock, frequently injured. I hope not, given that he's on the White Sox now. I loved the Tatis at the beginning of the second round move. I thought that was, if he wasn't going to take him, I would have. But once Tatis comes back, shortstop outfield eligibility is just insane. Like, you don't see that. But yeah, so I expect that. For obviously Tatis is going to come back full strength, so it's going to be a good boost there for him. And I do love Muncy. Don't get me wrong. I think Muncy is an elite hitter, right? One of the best hitters in the league. But I just think that Dave didn't adequately hedge himself with his hitters. I just think he's ripe for injury with what he has here. As far as the pitching is concerned, Gilbert is having a dominant spring. Bummed that he beat me to him. I was hoping to get him. Same with Hunter Green. I think Hunter Green's going to be a stud. Also, John Gray, where I think Dave got him super late too. Where did he? Is it going to tell me where he picked him? It's not going to tell me where he picked him, but transactions. Oh God, there we go. Ninth round, John Gray. I think that's a solid spot to get John Gray. I think we're going to be looking foolish for not picking him sooner. This year, his peripherals in Colorado were always good. It's just playing in Colorado gets you sometimes. Giolito, I love. Verlander, love that pick. His velocity's back up this year. I think that Verlander what did he get him in? Are you fucking serious? Oh, yeah, because he was a keeper, because he picked him up last year. Oh, man. So in the 27th round, that's solid. I've always been a Jameson Taillon guy. I think he's going to figure it out one of these days and be very good. I don't know if it'll be this year, though. I played the Taillon game last year for a number of months, and it just never panned out. So we'll see if this is the year that he finally figures it out. And obviously Ohtani and Buehler, man. Oof, man. Yeah, no, first team, so we haven't talked about any other teams yet, but first takeaways is this is going to be another good year for Dave, though he does have a lot of injury risk in this lineup here. So we'll see. If he stays healthy, Dave is going to be one of the top teams, I think. All right. Okay, chin music. Oh man, I love this lineup. I love these hitters. Vlad, Albies, Riley, Bobby Witt, Stanton. What Fish got him, God, must have been like around before I was gonna nail him. And I love the pick. Stanton has been sneaky healthy lately, so like all this shit about Stanton. I know I talked a lot of shit about Dave's hitters given the injury risk, but Stanton, I think maybe he's past that. We'll see. Springer, I think that Fish got at a discount in the fourth round. Yeah, maybe that's about, given his injuries last year, maybe that's about right. But at the same time, he's coming into spring fully healthy. So Springer, one fully healthy, is probably a second round talent. So I think that's good value there. Honestly, though, I hate the Bellinger move. Even in the eighth round, Yeah, say what you want. I mean, a few years removed from being an MVP, I think Bellinger's dead. I think he's got the worst yips we've probably seen in the game in some time, and I think he's toast. I think he's fucking done. O'Neal Cruz, gonna be sitting on the bench for a little while here. Maybe what I would guess probably a few weeks into the season, just so he can avoid that Super Two. Or did they get rid of Super Two? I don't remember. But I think O'Neal Cruz, if he doesn't stick it short, which it's going to be fine for Fish because he's going to keep that eligibility for at least another year, which is good. So O'Neal Cruz is good keeper value there. Riley Green just fractured his foot, so that sucks. But well, Fish didn't know that in the draft, obviously. And I think Lindor is a good. It was a smart draft to draft Lindor. His peripherals last year were right in line with his career averages. So like, I think as long as Lindor can get back to putting the ball in all fields, um, like he had, like he that would made him successful before. And I think the thing about Lindor too is that like his peripherals never shout like outstanding hitter. They never have in the past. It's his ability to put the ball to all fields, kind of like Tim Anderson, that give him the ability to have elite hitting results, right? So I think if he can start doing that again, then I think this is in the fifth round, solid pick. Um, okay, pitching. Sale. Oh, that was tough, Fish. I think what did you get him in the second round? Because third round. Oof, 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 oof. I know there was some error or whatever you saw in the draft, and that's why you got him. But I don't know. I think Sale is still going to be good. But third round, obviously, not on purpose, but just rough pick. Urias and Nola, I think, are going to be top 10 in points in the NL at least for pitchers, maybe top 10 overall. So I think that's a solid grab for both of them. I know Urias was a keeper, and Nola, what, was he your first round, second round? That's good value for him. Um, I think Wainwright is a ticking time bomb. Like I remember Fangraphs did a really good piece on him last year that he's literally just hitting the right spots of the zone. He's lost pretty much all of his. If you were to look at stuff, he has no stuff anymore. So I think it's just a matter of time before he becomes unrostered. Brendan Woodruff, elite. Nate Pearson, I where did he get him? 22nd round. That's good spot to draft Nate Pearson. I mean, yeah, couple years now of not living up to his immense potential, but in the 22nd round, you got to make a pick like that. I think Jack Flaherty is done. I I think Jack Flaherty is wiped. Um, just not being able to stay healthy permanently. Like here's the thing. This is what I'll say about this team. When I see three guys already in this pitching staff that are hurt, don't draft guys that are hurt. Period. And unless fine, I shouldn't say period because unless you can get a guy that okay, you know that they're going to be back in June and it was like a fractured hand, like Tatis for example, like what Dave did, right? That's the kind of guy you can draft injured because you know it's not like a baseball injury, right? Flaherty, stay the fuck away. Don't be drafting Jack Flaherty. Just don't. 13th round, you can say, oh yeah, I mean he's just a couple years removed from being like one of the best pitchers in baseball, but that not what you want to do on your fantasy team. Casey Mize, I think, is going to keep getting better and better. I don't like his peripherals though, so like he's not a guy that I draft. Um, I've never been a Casey Mize drafter guy. Like I've liked Casey Mize in the past, but like I don't think his stuff is indicative of him reaching the ceiling that we once thought he could. Unlike a Dylan Cease, where Dylan Cease had like a couple of really shitty years, right? In the White Sox before last year, before he became elite, but he always had fastball spin. Like he always had stuff like he always had that 12-6 curveball. I don't know if Casey Mize is showing that, or at least like he hasn't shown it at a major league level that he has the stuff that he just can't control. It's not the kind of problem that he's facing. I just don't know if I don't think he's been as effective as we thought he could be. I think Grayson Rodriguez is a good pick, but I don't know. It's hard to say if he's going to pitch in the majors this year. Like if I think it's a good thing to draft him, but at the same time, like, are we even going to see him? Maybe not. Sixto Sanchez, I don't know what his deal is. He's another Jack Flaherty, like just pitching injuries that just persist. So overall, like I think Fish has a lot of good names here. It's like a lot of like hot names to have on a pitching staff, but I hate the build with the injuries, right? This is one of those where maybe you can you can draft like a couple of these guys, like you could okay stash Jack Flaherty, but then also have guys that you know are coming to the city like the season ready to go. And Fish just doesn't have that. Fish has a handful of guys here that are actually going to be healthy on opening day, and that's just you don't want to throw away the first couple months of the season. Designated shitters. Okay, this is former Hake's team, I believe, right? Yeah, so Dirt and Joe in their debut. I mean, classic first time around mistake. I don't blame him for this, but like I say this every year that the phrase roster burn, like when you have this many guys, this many hitters sitting on your bench, it's just wasted points that could be otherwise used for pitching, right? So I don't like I'm not going to harp on it too much because there's no point, but like they're going to have to start dropping these guys, you know? Like, yeah, it was probably fun to draft Cavan Biggio late in the draft, right? But like, no point of having him because if he's not going to be in your lineup at least a couple times a week, just based on like off days for other guys, it's not worth having fucking six guys on your bench that are hitters. Oh God, oh my God, a relief pitcher on the bench too. Oof, oof. Well, I guess we'll slot into pitcher slot though. Oh, okay. What do we have here? Ian Anderson. Ian Anderson's a frustrating pitcher. From a fantasy perspective because you always think he has just a little bit more to make him this elite guy, but he's just not. He's a four starter. That's what he is. He strikes some guys out, but not a ton of guys. He will pitch a good amount of innings, but he's never going to go seven. Like you'll never see that out of him. I just think he's a guy that is always going to be rostered in fantasy, right? But the name does not like the production does not match the name. And this is coming from a guy who had Ian Anderson last year, if not the year before as well. So yeah, I think Yu Darvish is an outstanding pick. I don't know if he's a second round pick. To be honest, like I saw Yu Darvish as a guy like if he was still around by the fourth round, absolutely. But like I think second round, I think by the end of the season he will be second round production. But I think he could have been had in a later round, if that makes sense. Just from the surface, his ERA wasn't great last year. I think it was over 4. Still striking a ton of guys out, but it's his peripherals that made him say for me to say, okay, yeah, maybe at the end of the year he'll be a second round talent, but I could probably get him later. So I think maybe drafting him in the second round was a bit of a reach for them, knowing that they might have could have got him another round or two later. I think Sonny Gray is going to bounce back from his year last year. He didn't have a terrible year, but nonetheless, like getting him as a free agent keeper lock. I think Steven Matz can be good if healthy. Um, but when you only have two pitchers on your bench, like I'm not going to be spending picks on a guy that has never pitched like 150 innings in his career unless he did it last year. He did 150 innings last year, fine, good for him. But like we all know the Steven Matz story. Like he's just someone you want to root for and want to pick on your team because he's good, but he's just never healthy. Lance McCullers, I mean, injured, right? But very good, especially in the 10th round. I think getting him in the 10th round is great. But goddamn, I just can't. This roster burn is frustrating to look at. I would stay 10 miles away from Craig Kimbrell. I mean, not only because he's just a head case and he doesn't have his stuff anymore, and I think he's bad. Not only because of all of those reasons, but because if the case is true and he's only someone you're going to see in the ninth inning, then you're only going to get like ninth inning out of him, right? Which sounds weird to say, but like in this league in fantasy baseball, you want volume out of your relief pitchers, right? Like you want Seth Lugo over Craig Kimbrell because Seth Lugo is going to come in the 7th and might pitch the 7th and 8th. He's going to pitch every other day, right? The Craig Kimbrells of the world, one, extremely volatile because he sucks and he's terrible and not good, and two, he's only going to be in the 9th. So like, if you don't have a top tier guy in the 9th, like a Devin Williams or Liam Hendriks, it's like, why take one? As opposed to someone that with just electric on a good team, but pitches in the middle innings. I don't know. Brady Singer, I think, can be good. I think he can be good. I like him in the 24th. That's solid. Okay, but overall roster burn. This is probably the worst team we've looked at so far. I really like some of these names in this lineup, and it's a shame that there's all these other guys down here because you didn't need to be picking them when you could have been supplementing your roster with more pitching points. Man, Trey Turner in the 27th will always be a steal. And I loved the Bryce Harper first rounder. That was getting him at 3rd overall was a steal. Like, I couldn't believe that he went to 3. He should have been first one. He should have been 1-1. Okay. All right. How did Hog do? Hog, lots of roster burn. Clearly hasn't learned anything over the many years he's been in the league. But, I mean, what are you going to say? I think Paul Goldschmidt is back to being an elite fantasy player, and Hog got him, I think, in one of the earlier middle rounds, which is good for him because nowadays he's probably back up to a 2nd-round talent, so that's solid. I think Jose Altuve is one of the consistent, great second basemen, which there's actually not a ton of second basemen. There's just not a ton of them. So I think 2nd-round Jose Altuve is good. I think DJ LeMahieu's fucking terrible. I think DJ LeMahieu's done. So in the 6th round, I hate this pick. I fucking hate that pick. Oh my god, I love him. Nothing to say about Wander Franco. I just love him so much. I think Tommy Edmonds a bad pick. I don't think that Tommy Edmonds good. In the 7th round, probably not for me. Probably wouldn't touch him before the 10th. Obviously love Trout and Teoscar Hernandez. Great picks. Jake Cronenworth, he's one of the guys that I think are worth rostering as a second baseman. And in the 9th round, solid. Justin Turner can hit. Can he stay healthy at his age? We'll see. In the 13th round, I love it. God, this roster burn. Why? I think Alec Boehm is someone, like, I wouldn't call him a roster burn slot because he's post-hype, prospect-type dude that I think, I mean, certainly when DJ LeMahieu is as bad as he was last year, Alec Boehm, hopefully if he breaks out this year, that's Hog's third baseman, but we'll see. Tyler Megill, I've always been high on Tyler Megill. I just like those guys that AAA into Major League, like when they come up, they can pitch, but are never top prospect type dudes. Kevin Gausman, love Kevin Gausman. That's bad news for Lance Lynn. I think he's going to be out until late May at soonest. I mean, they said 4 weeks, but that's just 4 weeks without a mound. And he's going to have to build up after not having a full spring training, so we'll see him later. I think Michael Fulmer, gross. I think he's one of the better relief pitchers for our league, given the volume he gets out of their pen. I just think he's someone you're going to want to have in your roster all the time. Luis Severino, I think, is washed. Let's see. I mean, if he pitches 100 innings, I'll be surprised. Strasburg, God, I don't know what it is with these first couple teams, like, just with these injured pitching staffs. Like, you don't want to do that shit. You don't want to be, and, like, only having 3 starters on the bench, like, if you're going to have injured pitchers, then have a fuck ton of pitchers. Don't roster burn 5 roster spots in your hitters if you're going to have to be drafting injured guys. I saw that Hog didn't draft Pivetta. He picked him up just a day or two ago, which I like Pivetta, but Pavetta's always been one of those guys that I just kind of a John Gray that I look at, but I can never convince myself to roster just given the risk that he's going to put up a negative 50 burger on you. All right, Babo Taco. All right. Where did he get Real Muto? 4th round, that's about right. Real Muto is obviously one of those catchers that's rosterable, right? That he's worth a roster spot as a hitter. He's going to become DH eligible. obviously, as well. I mean, anyone's DH eligible in our league with utility, but something to look forward to if Realmuto does kind of come back to a better slugger than this. We'll just have to see. Ty France, I don't know about Ty France. I had him rostered on my team for a period last year, but I just his peripherals were never great. Like his Statcast numbers, I should say, because I mean his on base is solid. Obviously, it's really good, but I didn't like it. So he was a stay away for me this year. But I can understand if he's gonna keep it up as well as having first base, second base eligibility. Good pickup. I think Chris Taylor is not good for fantasy baseball purposes. Like this 254, 344, 438. Yeah, if you're gonna slot him in as your second baseman, that's fine, I guess. But like, I don't know if he was worth keeping. That's for sure. Luis Urias, his Statcast is always fucking trash, but I think he's a good pickup, not because of what he has done or what his Statcast says he can do, but because of his potential as a prospect, right? Like he was so highly touted coming into the league that like he was breaking down the door in San Diego. So I think it's worth seeing him on a team. I don't know if I would have drafted him. Obviously, I guess he's going to get drafted at some point late in the later rounds, but we'll see. He's just not a guy I would have in my starting lineup. I wouldn't have him in my starting lineup to begin the year. Trevor Story, I think is bad. I think Trevor Story is fucking bad. I think drafting him in the third round is a huge mistake. If you were to look at his splits, home versus away, over his entire career in Colorado, he's not a good hitter on the road, which is just red flag times 10. I think Andrew Benintendi is a bad fantasy player. Like he just doesn't fit kind of what you want from an outfielder in our league. You want someone who can get on base a lot and hit the ball hard, and he doesn't do either of those well, so not good. I love Joey Gallo and Eloy, though. Good picks, Bobo Taco. Eloy, forever keeper, I think. I mean, Eloy could just never get going last year, but call me a homer. I think he's going to be, if not league leader in home runs, near it. So, good pick there. Willy Adames, I think his utility's trash, my God. I think picking up Brennan Davis doesn't make any sense because I don't even know if we'll see him this year. I doubt it, to be quite honest with you. The Cubs would probably be pretty foolish to do so. Yuli Gurriel, good pick. I mean, I don't even know why he went so late. I think Bobble got him late. Yeah. I think solid guy to have on your squad. Man, yeah, why did he go so late? What the fuck? I mean, I know he's like a billion years old, but Jesus. Okay, this is a good pitching staff. This is a good pitching staff. Max Fried, dominant one. Clayton Kershaw, I think Bobble got him 7th round, and he had some of the best stuff of his life last year, his whole career. So I think the Dodgers will be careful with him, right? I don't know if we'll see him pitch every 5 days, just so they can manage his arm for the year. But definitely going to be good, easy points there. Zach Gallen, I think in the 10th round is great, right? He's just going to keep getting better and better. Freddie Peralta, Trevor Rogers. I really like this staff. I think Bauer is a great pickup in fucking 11th round. Dinelson Lamet, I had him last year for the whole fucking year. Shame on me, but I mean we know how electric he can be, and he's healthy this year, so we'll see that. I don't know what to think about Paddock. I mean, he just hasn't lived up to what he did his rookie year. I remember when Hake stole him off free agency at the beginning of 2019, and he was just dominant, but I don't know if he'll ever be that guy again. Shane Baz, hurt, but you gotta stash him. I don't know. There's some injuries here, but there's not much roster burn going on up here. I mean, I think Brennan Davis is a worthless player to have in your team. Same with Nico Horner. I think Nico Horner should never be rostered in our league. Or really, I mean, and I'm not saying that like our league is like skewed one way. It's just skewed towards players who can actually hit the ball, and Nico Horner can't. So, all right. Myself, the Snoot Boopers. Okay. I think I have bona fide the best hitter lineup that we've looked at so far. Um, I mean, Freddie Freeman, yeah, not injured, just whatever, day to day. I you won't see an injury on my team. You won't, and that's my philosophy. That I will not enter the season having guys that can't put up points. Right? I just won't. Like, oh my God, Mitch. God, I could jizz right now. I love this team so much. Oh my God. What did I get Curry? Like the fifth round? Oh, fourth round still. Oh man. Yeah. Be afraid, league. So pitching, that's the drawback on my team. I'd say this year is I don't have a bona fide one on this team. I think there's three guys that can be that level of talent. Like that's Logan Webb, Dylan Cease, and Pablo Lopez. I think can all pitch to that level. But I was gambling here, right? I picked volume over dead top of the rotation type guys. Though I do think there are, I don't even know if post hype, but just under the radar guys. Eric Lauer and Tony Gonsolin are both elite. Nestor Cortez, elite stuff, which I think will give points. This Contreras guy had a flash in the pan last year, right at the end of the season for Pittsburgh. I think that he's going to be good. Just look at his peripherals in the minors. So he's going to sit and burn my roster spots, but whatever. And I spoke to in an earlier review for someone else. You want the guys that are coming to pitch a lot of innings as in your relief slots. Like, I'm going to butcher his name. John Lasagna, he's one of those guys. Going to pitch a ton of innings out of the pen. Zach Thompson, going to pitch a ton of innings out of the pen. Colin McHugh, the king of pitching a fuck ton of innings out of the pen. Those are the kind of guys that I want in my relief pitcher slots. Yeah, no, I think that of the teams I've looked at so far, bona fide best team right here for sure. Okay, we're into the West now. 3-2 pitch. Okay, Gary Sanchez. Wow, 3-2 pitch. Gonna do the Gary Sanchez game. I mean, Gary Sanchez is tough because he is one of the five catchers in the league that has a hit tool, right? That has the power tool, like the game power tool. But like, does it show up consistently? No. He's like having oh my God, it's like having a Javier Baez play catcher, and there's Javier Baez on the same team. I don't know if I like that kind of construction, right? Two highly volatile guys. I mean, if he gets hot in September when we're getting into the playoffs, like good for you. But it scares the fuck out of me. Ryan Mountcastle, I think tough. Here's what I'll say. I like Ryan Mountcastle, but this slash line right here might be the ceiling for Ryan Mountcastle, which isn't bad, right? It leaves something to be desired in the on base category, right? Obviously, at 309 is not great, but like this could be the ceiling for Ryan Mountcastle. And if that's the case, I think there's always going to be 12 better first basemen than him in the league. So if I was a like actual Major League Baseball team, I'd probably want him on my team, just because I think you know what you're going to get out of him all the time, which is this. But for fantasy baseball, I just don't. I think he lacks the upside that you need in a first baseman. Or, I mean, this has it here, right? 16th overall first baseman projected this year, which I think is about right. Jonathan India, I feel like a fucking idiot about Jonathan India. Because I remember last year he sat there on the way, he sat there, and I was like, kept looking, I would stare at his Baseball Savant page every fucking day. I'd wake up in the morning and just Google Jonathan India Baseball Savant. And it always did the same thing, like middle of the road production type guy. But I didn't think that like at second baseman, like why wouldn't you want that on your team? I think he's a great option at second base. I don't know if this 459 will stay the same this year. We might see a 30-point regression-ish there. But I think he's good with that on base ability. I think that he's a great guy to be rostered as a second baseman in this league. Javier Baez, he's just not philosophically a guy that I like to have. I would ever like to have on my team. Just the hot and cold stretches just are unbearable to me. Acuna, love it. Harrison Bader, St. Louis just loves to have 26 guys on their team that are all just okay. I mean, obviously besides your Paul Goldschmidts and Arenados, right? But like St. Louis just loves average white dudes, and that's just the way that they are. Mookie Betts, what did he drop to? Like fucking seventh or something? Ninth? Oh God, we're gonna be kicking ourselves for that one. I think Dansby Swanson is a horrible player to have in a utility spot. I don't know how like Jim can look at himself in the face with having him occupying a utility slot. Dansby is barely good enough to be a shortstop roster, much less a utility slot. So find a new hitter. That's not acceptable. Okay, what do we have here? Clevenger and Wheeler. I think Clevenger is good. We'll see if he can stay on the field. I think Wheeler is obviously top flight, like top three probably in the NL, if not baseball, starting pitchers this year. Berrios, I love. Alcantara, I love. I love Hader in the pen. You're gonna get a lot of innings out of him. I like Bednar in the pen. He's an under the radar guy. Also, you're gonna get a lot of innings out of him too. Tanner, I love Tanner Houck. I think Tanner Houck is going to be a really good pitcher for a long time in baseball. I don't like Kyle Gibson. Kyle Gibson, like he is good in that he's going to pitch a lot of innings, so like that's going to help him get points, but he's not good in the fact that he doesn't strike anyone out. So like he just doesn't fit my philosophy of a guy that I want on my team, but a good fifth. If you have 10 or if you have 8 starters on your team, he's a good guy to have as your 5th or 6th of those, right? Cole Irvin, I saw he got scooped up by Jim a couple days ago. Noah Syndergaard, I love Syndergaard. I love him on the team. I mean, where did he take him? 10th round. I mean, no risk in picking him in the 10th round because at that point you're kind of just getting into the guys that are going to get drafted at some point, but it could be the 10th round they get drafted in or the 15th. It doesn't make a difference. So good pick there. This man, he made the Sox look silly in the playoffs, but my God, are his peripherals trash last year. I don't trust him. Not a guy that I would pick on my team unless, did he take him in like the 15th? Okay, yeah, that's fine then. Yeah, I mean, but I will say I honestly thought about this player just given where how he did against Sox in the playoffs. I know recency bias. Did my research. Doesn't look like a guy that's going to sustain any kind of success for a whole season this year. So not for me. Overall, though, I like Jim's team. Oh man, it just falls off. Like if Jim gets one injury on this team, like oh my God, like gonna be trying to lick the free agents. Big Brother. Let's see. How did we do, Big Brother? Oh my God. What the fuck is this? Oh. Oh my God. That's Jesus Christ. Did he sell the future for trying to make his push last year? Oh. This is the worst hitting lineup, bar none. Not even close in the league. Like, no one comes close to how bad, how terrible, how embarrassing to be in our league for what is it, a couple years now that Matt's been in the league? To be in this league and to field these hitters. I'm embarrassed to be in the same league as Matt Calvo for looking at this. This is just this is repulsive. Repulsive. I have nothing else to say about these hitters. That all said, really solid lineup on the pitching side here. Holy crap. Bieber, Burns, like this guy's got 5 guys that are 1s or 2s on teams. If not more, might have 6. I put Stroman in that same category. I love Stroman. I think that he is really good. I think he's like actually, so he kind of reminds me of Kyle Gibson, but about twice as good. So like, whereas Gibson's a 5 or a 6 of your 8 starters, he'd be like a 3 or a 4, right? Of that caliber. I really like him. I love Craig Stammen. He pitches a fuck ton of innings, so he's another guy that's gonna. Same with Yarbrough. He might start, but I'd rather have him in the pen honestly if I was his owner. And I saw that Matt made this move a couple days ago. Pick up Dustin May and stored him on his reserve. Um, he should be coming back in just a few months here. Domingo German's good too. I love this pitching staff. Oh, Luis Patino, he's gonna be a dude. We'll see how he gets deployed though. I bet he's gonna get reliever eligibility too. Yeah, man, I love this pitching staff. This is probably one of the best pitching staffs I've looked at. Like definitely better than mine. One of the best pitching staffs I've seen today looking at these rosters. But my God, have some self-respect. Jesus fuck. Those hitters. Okay. Cook the Fubs. There it is. Death, taxes, and Stumpf having a lot of roster burn and a lot of white guys that all stink. Dylan Carlson, I think, is not good. Michael Conforto might be good, but I don't know what Boris is doing here. Mike Yastrzemski, I feel bad. Like, it sucks because he had a couple years there where he was looking like a really great player, but now he's kind of coming back down to what his prospect pedigree, which wasn't anything, said he would be. A 4A player, right? Like, what do we have here? 224, 311, 457. Yeah, like a 4A. Like, go to Japan. Go to Japan. Dalton Varsho, I think, is going to be fucking good. Fucking good. Oh, man. Yeah, I do. But I can push it in here. I'll tell her I'm going to be a few minutes late. Hold on, guys. Okay. Okay, but I love this infield. I love this infield. Matt Olson, Brendan Rodgers, Chris Bryant, Corey Seager. I think that oh man, this team's gonna mash. Are we looking at Stumpf? They're gonna mash. CJ Cron, woo, woo, woo. I think Christian Yelich, his peripherals last year were okay. They were okay. Like, still getting on base a ton. The hit is not showing up for some reason, and he's striking out a lot, but I think the slugging will return. We'll see if it comes back to that 600 slugging that he had in his MVP season. But if he gets up to 450, picking him in the fifth round, let's just say 275, 370, 450. That's a great third outfielder, right? Like I think that Yelich is gonna get back on track, this season. I like Seiya Suzuki. I don't. I just and it's probably a detractor of my philosophy that like I never pick guys their first year out of Japan, and that's what bites me in the ass, right? Like look at fucking Otani. Like, well, he got hurt though, so that was different. Like it wasn't until last year that he really blew up, obviously, right? But like I just never I always shy away from guys that are either coming back from Japan or that's their first time in the majors growing up in Japan. I never trusted because you're really looking at someone that is coming from Double A, just jumping from Double A. So I never want to pay that premium price that you always have to pay for these guys to get them without reaching. What do we have here? Stumpf has a solid pitching staff too. I think DeSclafani. I think that he is another. He's a guy that's, in my opinion, between Stroman and Kyle Gibson. One of those guys that's going to pitch a good amount of innings, not going to strike a ton of guys out. But it'll actually turn in a really, looked like last year, really good ERA. Cole, obviously, probably American League Cy Young. Montgomery, I don't know about him. I mean, he'll probably be on the field for maybe 120 innings. We'll see. Bailey Ober, I think, is going to be very good. I think Bailey Ober will be very good. I don't know if he will strike anyone out. Looked like he had about 9 an inning last year. We'll see if he takes that next step. He's not the Minnesota pitcher that I like. I actually didn't talk about Joe Ryan as the Minnesota starting pitcher that I do like that is under the radar this year. Erod, oh man, I wish I could have gotten Erod, but 6th round, he's kind of like a John Gray, right? Is that his peripherals are always good, but he cannot stop giving up home runs. Holy fuck. So if he can solve that problem there in Detroit, then I think he's going to be a steal in the 6th round because he has the talent of someone much better than that. Blake Trinan, Rangers. Oh, Rangers. I love Ranger Suarez. Ooh, I love Ranger Suarez. How did he get him? Oh, he was a keeper too. Oh my God. He's good. Blake Trinan, very good. Chris Flexen, I think, is deceiving. I think that, I mean, 125 Ks in 179 innings, never anyone I'd want on my team. He's a worse Kyle Gibson. Kyle Hendricks, never anyone I'd want on my team in fantasy baseball for obvious reasons, right? I mean, he could turn it in. He could, even when he was in his like prime days, right? When he was turning in these 2.5 ERA seasons, he was never putting up big points in fantasy baseball because he's a guy that puts the ball on the ground. Um, doesn't strike a lot of guys out. Pitches a lot of innings though, but he's never going to give you those same kind of points that Garrett Cole would, even if they have the same ERA, because he's not striking guys out. He's not winning the game on his own. He's got a field behind him. Whether you can argue or not that he's the one that's really generating those outs, I don't know, but he just never got one on my fantasy team. Eliezer Hernandez, I think, had decent results last year, right? Like about 9K, like 9Ks per or yes, 9Ks per nine, but uh, his peripherals were not good. I was checking his baseball savant as well this year's draft, and I didn't like what I was seeing, so I don't know about that. I think Zach Plesac is a good reclamation project to have. He is good to be rostered, right? Just a couple years ago, he was looking much better than this, so we'll see if he can turn it around. But a lot of roster burn here. I think Stumpf has a lot of good pieces here, so there's no reason for him to have all this roster burn, and he shouldn't be scraping the free agency for whatever pitchers he can get. But otherwise, Stumpf looks pretty good this year. Legalized steroids. Okay. Legalized. Bring back Team Taddeo. Okay, what do we got? Yep. Death taxes. Marone and or Taddeo having a fuck ton of roster burn. Lots of roster burn here. But for some of this, I can understand. I mean, Joey Bart, potential to be very good. Potential to be better, I think, than Wilson Contreras. So we might have a... But these guys are going to have to trade these players. See, they're going to have to trade somebody down the line. So I'm not going to go too far into it. But what I will say is I love this lineup. I love it. I think Abreu aging is going to be a stopgap. If Josh Bell is as good as Josh Bell was last year, I think we're going to see those two flip positions with Abreu going to the bench. I think Brandon Lau is amazing. I think he's going to be, I think Justin Pedroia won an MVP, right? I think he's the next guy that plays second base that has the potential to do that. Alex Bregman, I think, is due for a good bounce back. Bo Bichette, great. I think Mitch Haniger doesn't get a lot of love because of, like, I guess his injury history, but his injuries were like, didn't he like tear his ball sack or something? It's not like a baseball injury. So I think that we'll see him produce. He had a good year last year in the games that he did play, right? But I think this isn't his ceiling. I think that he has a higher ceiling than this. Yeah, he looks like he turned into like a Ryan Mountcastle type year last year, but I think that he is better than that. Luis Robert, I mean, second round, I think he's going to be a first round talent. I think that he's going to be not MVP caliber because he's not Shohei Ohtani, can't pitch, so he's never going to win MVP while Ohtani's in the league, but that type of hitter. Kyle Tucker, I think they pulled him over from Matt last year. Like, I think we're going to get more of this from Kyle Tucker. Oh, Anthony Rendon is a bounce back candidate. I really like this roster. I do. I just think they're going to have to make some decisions because they're never going to be able to get the points to their pitching that they need, especially with DeGrom being hurt. Luis Castillo being volatile like he is. Garrett Crochet going down. Garrett Crochet, I loved this pick because he's a guy that pitches a fuck ton of innings. So it gives you a lot of points. And those Ks, like, it's tough to lose Garrett Crochet. Man, that's just tough to lose for DeGrom already to go down. That's tough. I mean, they have 2 first-round picks, so I understand using one of them on DeGrom, but it's just tough to see. They need more pitching. I think that they have a good base here, though. I mean, I think Blake Snell is never going to be as good as we all thought that he was going to be. The Ks are there, but I don't think that he's going to be better than a 4.2 ERA guy. But like I said, the Ks are there, so the points will be there. Cal Quantrill, I don't, again, like the Ks aren't there, but the innings are. I think that they have a really good base here because they have a good balance of innings and Ks. Maybe not in a single player that they're going to get both, but as a pitching staff, they'll get points from both of those sources, which is good. Um, I think Jesus Luzardo might be still bad. I don't know. I think that's a guy that you don't throw out there until you know whether or not he's what he has or not. Like, I would only be starting him against like fucking Nationals and Pirates until I saw that he was able to consistently throw strikes. John Means, man, this is just great balance on this pitching staff. I really like the balance here because John Means is the guy that's going to pitch probably 200 innings, but isn't going to strike anybody out. But you're going to have Luis Castillo that maybe might pitch 150, but it's going to strike out 200 guys. So, yeah, I don't know. I like this team. I really do like this team. I think this is a year that I think Marone Terry of a good base here for a playoff run. They just need to deal some of this hitting excess, some of this roster burn for pitching, especially given their injuries. Okay. Stupid High Yan. Welcome to the league, Stupid High Yan. Ross, Jesus fucking Christ. Oh my God! What the hell is this roster burn? What is this? This is fucking terrible. I mean, I'm not going to take responsibility for this because my responsibility was trying to make them understand the rules. So I'm not going to sit here and say it's my fault that Yanni wasted fucking 10 roster spots on bench that'll play never in a week, right? Ugh. I mean, I like some of these players. Like, I love Jose Ramirez. I mean, obvious first round pick. I actually liked Marcell Ozuna pickup. I don't know how he's not like suspended for life, but it is what it is. I mean, he can still hit, so there he is. I love Franny. I don't really like Witt. I think Witt will be not rosterable by the end of the year. I think he's just kind of hitting that decline, especially for the kind of points style that we have. I love Gavin Lux. I will not give up on Gavin Lux. So maybe we'll see Gavin Lux slot in up at second base by the end of the year. I mean, I don't even want to talk about this pitching because, like, I think there's some solid pitchers here, right? Like, Manoah's great, Valdez is good, Christian Javier is good, Tariq Skubal gets better and better, but I don't like his peripherals. Ryu's good. McClanahan is on Tampa Bay, so I don't know about him, but god damn. Yeah. It's tough because Yanni's almost disqualified himself from winning games because he's just not going to get enough points out of this part of his lineup. He's just not going to get enough points to compete. Oh, nothing more to say about that. All right, Phelps first league or I don't know the right word. I'm running out of words to say, but Will Smith, great. Rhys Hoskins, great peripherals last year. Nick Madrigal, unrosterable in this league. Hard to see. I mean, look. If Nick Madrigal can do this, right? This production, right? This 305, 349, 425, then he would be the worst rosterable second baseman. Well, it is second base though. Then he would be a bottom third rosterable second baseman, right? That's not the kind of guy that you want to have on your team. I don't like him in fantasy baseball, but if you have to play a second baseman, you have one. But and that said, with Madrigal, I mean, he has a high floor, being like bottom tier starterable second baseman. Ryan McMahon, I think, has a definitely higher ceiling, right? So maybe we'll see Phelps flop those two later on in the season. Alex Kirilloff, I saw he just got hurt. It sucks because I mean, not for the White Sox, but it sucks for him and for the Twins. Because like I think Alex Kirilloff is going to be a dude. I think he's going to be a stud. Like going to be one of those guys that just hits for a long time. Maybe a few All-Star seasons here and there, but not that type, not a star, right? But just a guy that's going to be able to hit for a long time. He reminds me of like David Peralta for a while in Arizona. Like if you played fantasy baseball, you know his name, right? He was always a guy that was hitting like 270, 340, 450, like just a good hitter for a long time. Probably be a 3-win player for a lot of years. So we'll see. As a second utility slot, I think it's a good spot for him to be. Julio Rodriguez, I mean, he's just in a tough spot. Seattle has a packed outfield, just a fucking slam-packed outfield, especially if Chris Bryant plays out there, given Ryan McMahon and Brendan Rodgers probably playing third base. I just don't know how much time, like how Julio Rodriguez is going to break into that outfield. The easy answer is Kyle Lewis staying hurt forever and being inconsistent. We'll see, and Jared Kelenic staying inconsistent. We'll see, but I don't think that that's the case. I think Kelenic's going to be good. Some roster burn here. I think that we'll see Pujols and Sheets get dropped before opening day, and a few more pitchers get pulled in here. Love Michael Kopech. I liked him more as a relief pitcher. Honestly, I like for fantasy purposes because he was still pitching like 80 innings or 90 innings or even 100 innings. I can't remember, but he was getting those points, right? Now we'll only see him once every 5 days, and maybe we'll only get another 20 or 30 innings out of him. We'll see how they monitor his innings. I love the Carlos Rodon pick. I was debating on keeping him in the 5th round. It was too high of a price for me to pay in the draft this year. But I mean the upside is clear, right? I mean he was a top 10 starting pitcher last year, or maybe he didn't end that way because he was hurt for the last month or so there. But he's that kind of producer if he's healthy. But that's a big if. Scherzer. I think this is just a minor injury. Yeah, he's going to be fine, and I think he's going to be a top 10 starting pitcher this year. I think Tyler Mahle is going to be a top 30 starting pitcher. Oh, wow, 30. I don't know if these Ks will be sustainable, though. Like, we've never seen that out of him before, so we'll see if he can do that again. I think Tristan McKenzie is a high-risk, high-reward guy, kind of like a Jesus Luzardo, but a little bit more. You have a little bit more assurance with Tristan McKenzie because he actually came back last year and, like, for the last month or so and pitched really well. So we'll see if he can continue that on this year. He's another guy though. I wouldn't start him against the White. If he was starting that week on my team against the White Sox, I wouldn't start him in the lineup. I would put him on the bench and wait and see what happens until he proves that he can pitch against teams that aren't like the Royals. Gregory Soto, he's another guy who pitches a lot of innings out of the pen. So good points there. Carlos Carrasco, I'm not sold on. What to see? He's another guy I'm going to wait and see. Reed Detmers, wow, he's actually going to start out in the majors, huh? Okay. I mean, he flew up through the minors. Another guy I'm not going to start until he shows that he can pitch. Mitch Keller, I think he's a good, solid guy to have. I think he's a slightly worse Kyle Gibson, right? Like, he doesn't strike a lot of guys out, and the ERA obviously wasn't there last year, but I think, yes, he's rosterable. I think it was the right decision for Falf to pick him, but all in all, I think there's a little too much roster burn going on up here and not enough consistency in this pitching staff for me to be comfortable with it. So this is probably, I don't know, a back half team right now, but I think there's potential for it if there can be more pitching found out there to move into a playoff contention. All right, let's look at all the teams and think who is good and who is not. I think that Big Brother will be very bad this year. I think Big Brother, but that was known, giving away all those picks. I think that was a conscious decision on their part. I think they will be very bad. I think that I have the bona fide best team in the league. Debate me, but I do. I think 3-2 pitch has the right roster construction, and I think they're solid, right? I think that they have a solid roster, so I think 3-2 pitch is playoffs at this point. I think Bucky LaGrange is playoffs at this point. I love a lot of things that are going on in this pitching staff, and while there's a lot of injury risk up in this lineup, I'm going to say if it stays healthy, right? It won't, but if it does, I think for sure playoffs. But if this lineup is healthy going into our playoffs, then it'll be a good team. But this pitching staff is great either way. I love the hitters on Chin Music. I love them, but the pitching is just hard to look at. Probably one of the worst for pitching staffs in the league. So I think they're right in the bubble there, right? You can't have success with all of it. Stumpf, yeah, I really liked this lineup. I think Stumpf has a really solid team here. Maybe ditch a couple of these guys though that are roster burning for some pitching. But overall, I think Stump's going to be a really good team. Joe and Dirt, they have a great lineup, but their pitching is fucking brutal, and they have a lot of a roster burn. I think this hitting lineup is going to put up points every week, but they just will not have enough points supplanting from the pitching to be a playoff team at this point. Hoff, I think Hoff is a solid team. I think it's really discouraging what happened to Lance Lynn, but he has another injury in Steven Strasburg here. He won't stay healthy the whole year, but I think Hoff has a good team. Hoff is one of the better teams he's had going into the start of the season. So if I think if Bohm can elevate above LeMahieu like this year, if he can be that guy, and Hogg can find a pitcher out there on free agency, a pitcher or two in exchange for probably Avisail and Jonathan Schoop, I think he's going to have a good team. He's a bubble team for sure. He's not a bona fide bad team like he has been in the past. I besides besides Matt, I think this is probably the second worst team. I think Bob probably is the second worst team. I like some of what's going on up here, right? I like JT, I like Gallo and Jimenez, but I just don't think this infield has anything really solid going for it. And while the pitching I think is going to be pretty consistent, I don't know if it's going to give the points to supplant the lack of points we're going to see in this infield up here. And there's not much to say about the bench either, except for Yuli Gurriel, with both of these utilities not being good. And Brendan Davis isn't going to see the league this year, so I really don't like this team. I think this is a bottom three team for sure. Legalize steroids. I think this hitting lineup is outstanding from Marone and Taddeo. Honestly, I think it's outstanding. And I think that there's some left to be desired here. It's a shame because, like, if you were to ask me right when we drafted, before DeGrom was hurt and before Crochet was hurt, I would have said this is an okay pitching staff. Like, it's a good pitching staff with a lot of talent here on this bench that could be traded to get pitching when the time came. But I just don't know if that's the case anymore. I think that if I had to say it now, I'd say bubble or maybe bottom half of the league. It's just this pitching is going to be hard with these injuries, despite how good the hitting is. Again, I think I'm probably the best team. I think Yanni is going to get fucking smacked. I think bottom three down there with Matt, Calvo, and Bob for sure. I don't think this team has, unless there's substantial transaction activity this year by this team, I don't see how this team is going to have any success, period. And then my brother's team, I think there's some pieces here. I think there's some pieces. I like Ian Happ this year. I think the pitching has good potential too. If McKenzie and Carrasco pan out, I think it has some real potential. But I think there's got to be some moves done to cut down on this hitting bench, and Kirilloff has to come back and play well. Bubble team for sure, bubble team. So yeah, that's about that, fellas. That is the year or the draft in review. Like, comment, subscribe. All right, good luck, everybody.